welcome to a new episode of GodTear. This one is going to be a very quick one because what we're going to do is we're going to have a look at the card for this new model. Let's get into this. We're looking at the new Slayer for GodTear, Keera, Princess of Dragons. If I am good enough in the week that I've got to do this, I will also get this put as a video and it'll be on YouTube and you'll have the cards in front of you and the renders probably about now, unless I've done something really silly and, I don't know, spliced in other videos or whatever I've decided to do. But what we've got right now is the first new model since the release of GodTear last year in November. Roughly speaking, when I put my last podcast out, it has been that long ago. I'm quite embarrassed about that, but you know, world has gone to hell. So let's cheer things up. Let's have a look at Keera. I'm going to start with the champion main card, so not looking at the ultimate card until later on, because I think that's the better way of doing this so far. And we'll go through the plot phase and then the clash phase, and then we'll do the minions, and then we'll do her ultimate card. Hopefully we can progress through in a sensible way. If you can, right in front of you right now, have a look at the card. We have the numbers. Let's look at the numbers first. She has a movement of 2, a evasion of 3, armor of 2, and 6 health, which when you think about some of the other Slayers that are out there, so you've got Lorsan, you've got Sneaky Pete, you've got Rangosh, those seemed like quite weak stats. Say that for simplicity. She has the same stats on both sides of her card, so she doesn't gain a movement increase, which Lorsan does. She doesn't have evasion 5 or evasion 4, which most of those do. You'll note that I am avoiding talking about Morrigan. Morrigan is an obvious interesting case in the Slayers at the moment, not being potentially as strong as the others. Keera kind of moves more towards that in terms of her numbers, and numbers are not fantastic, but let's be clear on this. She's probably not going to be doing as much of the upfront stuff. She has her minions for that. And obviously we're going to build to this. We'll build through to this one. She has 2 abilities on her plot card side. She has Royal Summons. The young dragons may make an advance action or a recruit action. That's pretty good. That's basically what Rodri gets to do with his recruit action, plus Morrigan and Mournblade's ability to move her move minions. She's got that built into one ability. So that seems pretty good. Please note, no range on it either. They can be anywhere on the board. Obviously, what will be interesting is how far can the dragons move? What is their advanced stat? We'll come to that. Her second option is Regal Blessing. If a young dragon is within range, they gain an accuracy boon. And the range on that is 3, which is a pretty reasonable distance. So we're looking at abilities that we have seen on other cards, but they are all focused on her dragons. Wonder if that's going to be a running theme. If we have a look at the back of her card, so her clash phase, again, as I said, the stats haven't changed. She's exactly the same. She has Royal Summons again. So she can make her dragons move twice within a single turn. She can also make them recruit twice within a single turn. And that's obviously not including the fact that they can advance themselves and they can recruit for themselves as well. So she has a massive capacity to keep those dragons moving and keep them up and running. So with any hope, you'll be able to block them in if you're playing against her. Surely, you know, at the moment, they are very flexible and very mobile, and this could be a problem. She then has 2 attack abilities, and it's really important to note I'm leaving out a really important rule here. So bear with me. You're going to see something coming up soon that's really important. Vicious Bite sounds like an odd ability for her to have. Hit effect. If the target champion is hit, they gain a wound. Okay, so automatic damage like Sneaky Pete. It's a range 1, accuracy 4, damage 7. That's a cracking amount of damage. We don't see that sort of damage on anybody apart from Grimgut. Grimgut has that sort of damage. That's excessive, and he's only hitting followers with that, whereas she can hit she's hitting champions. But this isn't limited to champions, as we've seen through most Slayers. They can use their abilities on minions as well. So that's a hefty way of taking out those really high armor but low evasion targets. And just to bring it over to the other side, Rain of Fire. It's got a hit effect that reduces armor, so it gives an armor blight. It's a range of 1, accuracy 7, damage 4. So we've got the inverse here. We've got something which is highly accurate, doesn't do as much damage. So this is to counterbalance, the champions that have high evasion but don't necessarily have a lot of armor. So she's got this capacity to do damage either side. Overall, just looking at the card as is, without thinking about anything else that she might be able to do, what we can see here is that she enables her dragons quite considerably. They can recruit quite often. They can move a heck of a lot. So real speed with her minions. She's very minion focused. Those attacks with only range 1 and the sort of split between a 4-7 or a 7-4, she's obviously got a bit of flexibility here. But if you consider how weak her stats look and then just take as they are these attacks, it's going to look, she looks a bit fragile, surely. She doesn't really want to be up front. A lot of the Slayers are like this, so maybe it's just a balancing thing. They've got to weaken her up to give her the reason to have these attacks, surely. But as I've said, I'm avoiding telling the whole picture here, and we'll come to that later. Let's have a look at her dragons, shall we? So on the plot phase of the dragons, they are, to be fair, the stats are the same both sides. Movement 3, wow. When you think about the fact that Keera can make them advance twice more, you are talking about 6 movement in the plot phase and 6 movement in the clash phase. That's massive. These things are going to be all over the place, and you are not going to be able to lock them down. And we'll come to that in just a second. 2 evasion, 2 armor. Okay, there's where the weakness is. They have also only got 5 health. They are large minions. As far as I'm aware, they are large minions. This means that they are going to give 2 points when they're killed, and it's not going to be difficult. In my opinion, that is going to be quite an easy thing to crack, especially for Maelstroms. Maelstroms are going to love seeing these guys. They're going to get 3 points for barely having to put in a lot of work. Even Grimgut's going to be able to do this with his Wretchlings. The Wretchlings will be able to do this 5/5 dice. You can probably choose these guys, no problem. So they look fairly weak, but they're very, very quick, especially with what Keera can do. They have Draconic Rage, so they can buff damage on themselves. So you've got Keera that can buff up their accuracy, and they can buff up their own damage. They also have Roar. It's a 3 range, 5 accuracy, and its hit effect is to reduce the evasion stat of the target. That's going to be really useful. 5 dice to reduce somebody's evasion. You're likely to hit people that have got 3 evasion. You might find it a bit harder with 4 and 5, but you're going to get that happen every now and again. At that point, it's going to massively change how good these guys are. And here's the big thing. They have something called Flight. During an advance action, the young dragons may move through other model hexes, but cannot end their movement on those hexes. So that whole idea that we talked about earlier when, we said they're going to be very mobile, and I said, well, you're going to have to pin them in then, aren't you? You can't. Not easily. Not unless you've got a bubble around them 3 hexes wide with every single hex filled. They're going to be able to get out. So they are exceedingly mobile. They can move a heck of a long distance. They're fragile, but, they're going to be able to reduce your champion's evasion. They're going to be able to buff their own damage. They are starting to look particularly strong at this point. I have to say, they interest me massively just from this side of the card, just from what they, Flight is huge. When you think about the movement that they've got with Flight and Keera, they're going to shift. You're not going to be able to protect your champions. If there is a weak champion out there, these guys are going to hound it, and they're going to get to it. Let's have a look at that clash phase then. So on the clash phase, same movement stats, same everything, okay? So their stats don't change. Bite, hit effect. If the target is a champion, it gains a wound. That sounds familiar. It's the same effect that Keira's got on hers. Interesting. Range 1, accuracy 3, damage 5. So not quite as hard hitting as Keira's attack, but still pretty reasonable. You're automatically doing a point of damage. That's nothing to be sniffed at. We can see from people like Lorsane that automatically do damage. That's pretty strong. Sneaky Pete that automatically does damage, and like Sneaky Pete, they still get a damage roll as well. So they're still potentially doing even more damage on top of that. Fiery Breath, sort of sounding similar, especially when you look at the hit effect, which is reduced armor again. Wonder if that's going to come up. Range 1, accuracy 5, damage 3. Okay, so we've flipped it again. We now have something which is more for the high evasion, low armor, and it has the same sort of effect as Keira's ability. Wonder if that is key to what these guys are doing. Now, I'm going to pause here. We've got Flight again, obviously. They're going to have that both sides of the cards. Just from this, I think these guys are really interesting. Keera and her dragon look like a lot of fun. Highly mobile. I mean, this is more mobile than pretty much any minion that I can think of. I can't think of anybody who has followers that are this swift and this mobile. And they're not bad at taking out champions. The stats on the young dragons themselves, the actual accuracy and the damage, they're nothing to sort of scream and shout about. You're going to miss probably quite a bit, even if people have got low evasion, or you might not do damage. to the ones that you use in Fiery Breath on. So there's a bit of an oddity here. But remember, they can have their accuracy buff. They can have their damage buff. At that point, it starts looking a bit more interesting. 4-6 or 6-4, depending on which attack you're doing, that sounds quite strong. Okay, you're only going to get it once in that phase, but it sounds quite strong. But here's the thing with Keera, and it's all, in my opinion, the reason why she is good, and I'm actually thinking possibly in the upper echelons of the Slayers. I've got to test this. And I'm hoping to do so soon, and there'll be another recording. You know, once I've had a chance to actually play this, there'll be another recording and we can have a look at this. But it's her extra stuff on her special card, on her ultimate card. So if we have a very quick look at her ultimate card, I'm going to skip the ability to start with. She is a Slayer, plus 1 point when she knocks out an enemy champion. We're already kind of thinking that, you know, the dragons are going to do most of that because of how much they move. She doesn't move as much. She doesn't have a lot of range. She's quite weak. You don't really want to hold her in there. And then this ability appears on the card by my command. Oh my goodness. The range of Keera's attack skills are determined from a young dragon within 3 hexes of her. Okay. That effectively, so long as you have a dragon within 3, gives her a range of 4 on her abilities, not 1. That's massive. That's huge. That completely changes how effective Keera is. If we kind of think back to her combat abilities in her clash phase. Vicious Bite. Range of 1. Well, it's not. It's a range of 4. So long as, you know, you've got a dragon in the right place, it is effectively a range of 4. 4 accuracy, 7 damage, automatically does a point of damage if it's a champion. Ow. That's huge. That's massive. And I'll come to why it's so important later on. Please note, she is the person attacking. If you have buffed your dragons, if you've given them an accuracy boon, if you've given them a damage boon, it does not change this attack. You are measuring from the dragons, you aren't attacking with the dragon. So it's still just going to be a 4-7. If you want to buff her in other ways, that will obviously go up. But the dragons themselves don't give that bonus. Rain of Fire. Now effectively a range 4, 7 accuracy, 4 damage. This is huge. Absolutely huge. You can, if you imagine it, from the perspective of the dragon, you can attack 4 times in a turn, effectively. You're not, obviously you are attacking from Keera, but effectively that dragon, if you think of the sort of stylization of it, she is shouting at her dragons to do an extra attack, an even harder attack, or breathe fire, you know, more intense. That's the sort of visuals I get in my head. But the key thing here is, for these 2 attacks, Vicious Bite, Rain of Fire, she is the one attacking. If she kills with those attacks, you get the bonus point. So these things which look like range 1, they're not. They're range 4. There is a problem with this. She has to measure from her. That means if a champion has come up base to base with her and you don't have a dragon anywhere nearby, she can't attack them. So there are some trade-offs. But for me, that effective range of 4, which is better than attacks that Lorsain can do, you know, that's huge. That's massive. An effective range of 4 is probably, and I can't think of anything else, I've not got all the cards in front of me, that is probably the longest range set of attacks in the game at the moment. There is nothing else that can attack that far as I can tell. She's got massive range. She can hide as much as possible in this game, which is not hugely possible. You know, it's not easy to hide your model, but a 3-2 with 6 health that doesn't have to be in combat, that's pretty good, pretty impressive. So she can do massive amounts of damage. She can still get the bonus points when she's miles away from her target. She can shift those dragons around to exactly where she wants to get the killing blow and get that bonus point when you've been whittling them down with other things. Or you activate the dragons first, whittle down the target, then activate her and kill them, because she can shift them around, get them to a target that they can help reduce and really hurt, and she can get those kills in so long as she's in range. She's effective. She's really, really good. She's surprising, but that's not all. We're still missing her ultimate ability. Each enemy champion that is within 2 hexes of 1 or more dragons gains a wound. Now, I have to admit, I don't think Firebrand is exciting as I want to be. When I initially read it, I thought, that sounds cool, but I'm not sure. Each enemy champion within range of 1 or more dragons gains a wound, but they don't gain 1 wound for each dragon they're in range of. It's just 1 wound, flat. So, to me, I kind of wondered, what's the point in this? It's not a lot of damage. It's a little bit lackluster, like I think Lorsain's ultimate is, but at least she doesn't have to hit with this one where Lorsaine does. 6 dice for 2 damage on Lorsaine is invariably the number of times I've activated that and then missed and not got the automatic 2 damage, which is such a shame, but it happens far too often. At least with Firebrand on Keera, you're not having to roll, you're just getting an automatic 1 damage. Why is it on there? Why does it have at least some redeeming qualities to it? It's the fact that you don't have to hit. It's the fact that you could chain up and make sure that your dragons split up next to 2 models that have only 1 health with her royal summons, and then you just activate Firebrand and they're both dead. And that's 2 targets taken down in one go. So there is going to be a certain amount of really clever work that you have to put in to get Firebrand to really do what it's supposed to do. And in my opinion, that's what it's for. It's a coup de grace that you try and pull off on multiple targets. It'll be still good if you use it to just automatically damage a target, just a single target. But to be honest with you, if you're going to do that, why not Vicious Bite them? Unless they've got massively high evasion, you may as well just Vicious Bite. You get an automatic damage. That one target is dead. I suppose if they've got a really high evasion, Firebrand solves that for you. But in my opinion, people who play this game, and I know, I don't qualify myself as the best player of this game. I'm getting really into it. Really like the game. I love playing loads of it, and hopefully the more practice I get, the better I'm going to get. But in my opinion, most people will look at that ability and probably hold on to it until this perfect moment where you can take out 2 champions in one go. It will be brilliant and lovely when it happens. Glorious to see this thing happen, and scoring 10 points in one go would be amazing. But I don't think it's going to happen very often. So I do think Firebrand will probably be used when you've whittled down a very high evasion model to the point where 1 point of damage will kill, and then you can just use this just to guarantee it. Still, I hold on to hope that someday I can get the double kill. That will be glorious. Okay, what do I think of Keera? Well, if you want my opinion, I think she's quite good. Do I think she fixes the inherent problems with champions, Slayer champions, which you've heard probably like me on Rage But Wire talk about this when I went and joined them recently to record. Their problem tends to be that there is a lot of commitment of resources to kill a champion. It's not an easy process. There are some that you can do, and honestly, Keera will probably be just as good as Lorsaine and Sneaky Pete at taking out those relatively easy to reach champions, the ones that are relatively simple for Slayers to take out. Other Slayers, I think she'll be quite good against. I don't know, she'll be quite good against Titus with his low health, but the dragons aren't going to do as much. It's just that Keera can crack through, because again, that's the other thing. Keira's thing about her attacks going through her dragons, at least that visual side of it, rules wise, that is not what's happening. She is not ordering the dragons to attack, she is just attacking through them. And because of that, Titus's ability where he gains an extra evasion and an extra armor against followers won't count for Keira's attack. So she'll probably be able to take out somebody like Titus, no problems. She'll have a field day with Grimgut. She can probably one round Grimgut as long as the dragons are near enough. As long as Grimgut doesn't get an activation to respond. So again, if you're clever, Grimgut activates, does whatever he's doing. You move with the dragon's activation, you move the dragons in, you take an attack with one of those dragons on and then Keera just pummels him, just goes for it on her activation. So long as there isn't that response activation that could kill your dragon, you'll probably quite happily take out Grimgut. So another bad day for Grimgut, I think, when Keera finally is playable. What else do I think about her? As I say, I don't think she necessarily solves the inherent problem though, which is that while there are some corner cases that allow you to really sort of pick on in terms of those champions, the ones we just mentioned, the vast majority take a lot of resources. They take a lot of time to kill. Keera speeds that up a bit, perhaps because of how many attacks she can put out in a single turn between her and her followers. And the fact that you can carefully work it so that the followers do a bunch of damage and then Keera finishes them off. She will probably get her bonus point more often than some of the other Slayers do, but there's just something in there where I look at these cards, I look at the Slayers, and I really wish they had some abilities which say you do an extra dice worth of damage or 3 or 4 dice worth of damage against champion. Really throw them into that arena of being able to, not necessarily on one turn, but on a couple of turns, within a couple of turns, you can quite happily kill at least one champion to really swing that turn for you. However, I put this under a massive caveat. I have not had a chance to play Keera yet. I am 100% certain that when I do, I am going to change my mind on her, and I would imagine it will move more towards positive because there are so many aspects to her card. There are so many things I want to do. There's this whole thing with GodTear at the moment, in my opinion, where there are some really good, obvious, high quality champions that don't quite do everything, and then there are 1 or 2 champions that just outright maximize what that class can do. Rangosh as a Slayer is way above most. I think Blackjaw as a Maelstrom is like the quintessential Maelstrom. Roger is probably the most obvious Guardian to use, although I think that there is a bit more flexibility in that class. Shapers are just generally good. Even Rattlebones, in my opinion, has her place, but that place is slightly more niche. In either case, those are the exemplaries. I think she moves the Slayers more up the sort of quality, the quality of the classes. Slayers with Keera start to look more like you should be taking either a Rangosh or potentially a Keera. I do think she might be that good. She might be that. Anyway, that is the card read. I'm going to put this out, hopefully on the day that Steamforge release all of this information as well, so you'll be able to read their blog if you want to. And I am lining up a potential opponent where we can proxy this, somebody else that's from the Steamforged media team, potentially proxy this model on Tabletopia, and we will record an episode before release. So before she's actually available on the 14th, we will record something in order to actually really discuss what we think about her. I'll try and work out whether or not we can potentially do recording of the Tabletopia game to go out on the 14th as well. We'll see. But that's the plan. Thank you for bearing with this. As I've said near the beginning, right at the start, before all the music and everything else, this is my lockdown PC, so apologies for the quality of the audio. I will be on a better computer going forwards. I've got the parts coming. So with any hope the audio will be a bit better the next time we do this. But there you are. The first new champion, Keera, the Dragon Princess, is going to be out on the 14th of August, and I will see you the next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.